Good morning, everyone from Israel. Today's Friday, November the 3rd, 2023, and I'm here with another short update to you all about what's going on here. Um, in the war in Israel, of course, broadcasting from Israel, we are in a phase that I call the true quiet before the storm. The IDF is still operating inside of Gaza, getting into positions, gathering a lot of intel, eliminating a lot of terrorists. And you must remember, this is the toughest. If you ever been in military, if you ever been a combat fighter, you'll know that urban fighting in such that we have in Gaza right now is almost impossible. It's almost impossible. Now add to that the fact that these people are literally just like mice and rats. They're under the ground in their tunnels, peeking their heads up for a short moment. They launch an RPG missile, anti-tank missile, and they hide. And they go back to the tunnels. Those who are above the tunnels are those who are in the hospitals. And by the way, the hospitals in Gaza are only portrayed as hospitals. They're terror based. They're using the people, and the people, trust me, they are okay with that. They're using the people as human shield, knowing that the Israeli military, especially under this anti-Israel administration and the Biden administration, is very anti-Israel, and I'll get to that in a short moment here. But inside Gaza, I think the IDF is working slowly but surely. And one of the main reasons it's working slowly is because the main threat, the main war, is not going to be with Gaza. Okay, Gaza and Israel is a bit of a mismatch, even though they committed that horrible massacre. But a lot of it was because we failed, we as in Israel failed in reading all the intel and knowing that this attack was planned. But that's is already history that we will never forget. So the IDF is working closely in Gaza in order to maximize the pressure. The siege is still in effect. I do not agree with them asking for fuel to be coming into the Gaza Strip. See, these people, you have to understand, the people that we're told to evacuate to the south, by the crossing, by the border with Egypt, it's called the Rafah crossing. They already have tents and they have hundreds of trucks with water, food, and basic human beings necessities. If they need something that it's operated by fuel, they have their own generators there. It's almost like a refugee camp. And even the Egyptians, after a massive pressure, are agreeing now to have field hospitals in the Egyptian side. So everyone who wants to spare their lives, everyone who wants to escape, unless Hamas preventing you from escaping, you go south, you'll be safe, and let the IDF fight and eliminate the terrorists. That being said, in the beginning of this war, and we are now, wow, almost a month. It's a month minus 4 days. I said that the US support does not mean that this is the administration's support. There are the politicians and there are the people. The people of the United States of America, the patriots, the people who are anti-terrorism, the people who were touched by 9/11 and saw the evil in this world are with the state of Israel, and that's the vast majority. The people in America, because people keep asking me, "Now you come from America, you live there. How come they hate us and they don't agree with Israel?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" Well, they're removing all the posters of the kidnapped people, and how in the colleges. How can they do that in America? And I was like, "Well, these people hate America regardless. If it's not the Jews in Gaza and Israel, then they'll go to the Republicans and Trump supporters, and they have all these movements. Radicalism in America has been growing since 9/11, which in reality you would expect that to stop and completely be eliminated post 9/11. United States under democratic governments are allowing a massive, it's not even silent invasion, but a massive invasion into United States to try to change America's natures from within. Some neighborhoods in America, unfortunately, one of the things I like about America the most, about patriotic Americans, is that any neighborhood you go to, especially small towns, Americana, like you see the U.S. flags, you see the pride, you can see the strength of the American people. But unfortunately, some areas in the United States right now fly Hamas flags over the American flags. That's for another story. So, Secretary Blinken is coming to Israel today. And he's coming to Israel to say, hey, me and President Biden think that you guys should stop a little bit to allow a humanitarian aid or passage. You should stop your operation. Stopping right now will leave the IDF troops like ducks in the range, like they're just going to be targets. Stopping right now will allow Hamas to dig himself even deeper or to try to escape through the Egypt border. Stopping right now is just like saying to the US, you found bin Laden, you surrounded bin Laden's home, you know that he's in there, you already executed an operation to either capture or kill bin Laden, but then somebody tells you, stop. Stop because bin Laden's kids and wife need to go to the bathroom. That's pretty much what's going on in Gaza. So that support from this current, and I'm saying this, the Biden administration is an anti-Israel administration. It has always been very anti-Israel administration. In fact, it's a continuation of the Obama administration. And Anthony Blinken was part of it. He was part of that, he's obsessed with Iran. He was the one who pushing and working so hard for a deal with Iran, the same Iran who's funding all of this. So he's coming to pressure Israel. And I hope and pray that Netanyahu, who is not known to be able to sustain pressure, I hope that Netanyahu is going to say, our people are there as hostages, first and foremost. Most of them are. Our people were murdered in their sleep. Our babies were kidnapped. We are not stopping. No aid, no fuel, nothing. Gaza Strip is one big terror base. These so-called innocent civilians are the supporting layers, the families, the tribes of these terrorists. They were not taken over by Hamas. They were not like even Fox News. Oh, the Gazan citizen, they were taken hostage by Hamas, and they just want to flee. Baloney. And I'm going to tell you one more thing that I checked with one of my sources, one of my Arab sources in Gaza, who happened to be a Christian living in Gaza. Imagine that. We talk. We have a forum when a lot of us are exchanging real intelligence and information on what's going on. Of course, a lot of it is under Israeli censorship. So if I say it, I will never say it. I won't risk Israeli troops' safety ever, or American troops. But if I say it, I might be subjected to jail because we're not allowed to publicize stuff like that. But he's telling me this. He's like, people talk about all the civilians in Gaza who lose their life daily. There's almost about 10,000, which numbers is, we can never tell. 10,000 people died and innocent civilians, and they keep repeating this propaganda of innocent civilians. Which innocent civilians? The ones who came after Hamas terrorists came to our towns and villages. They came in the thousands after Hamas was already there. They raped, they murdered, they kidnapped. Okay, these are the civilians, the so-called innocent civilians. And then when there's footage, there's videos. I have the videos for all of that stuff. Everything I say is backed up by facts and videos. I'm a researcher. I've been researching Islamic terrorism for over 2 decades. I fought that when I was in the military. Like, I know all about that. And I live in a mixed city, and I grew up in a city that half of them were Hamas supporters since childhood. So I know what I'm talking about better than all these experts in general talk. They don't know. And I'll tell you one more thing about the United States. Though I love the United States, but the United States have no clue how the Middle East is ran, as it works or operates, or what are the rules in the Middle East. And that's why the failure in Iraq, the failure in Afghanistan, the post failure in Afghanistan, all these things like Obama, Obama himself created. I mean, the Middle East had some sort of a structure. Yeah, they had dictators, they're barbarians, they're backwards, but at the same time, the Middle East was somehow stabilized because these dictators were able to control their people. This is how their society is structured. They need to have a shepherd to the primitive herd. They need to have somebody with power who's going to put them in bay, keep them not killing, because the thrive of for killing either themselves or innocent civilians, not non-Muslim innocent civilians like Israelis and Americans and others, it's uncontrollable. So when Obama wanted to teach the Middle East, the Arab country, the Arab Muslim countries in the Middle East, when Obama was trying to teach them democracy, that's what I knew back then, that this is going to result in millions and millions of dead. Because once Mubarak in Egypt stepped down, like Obama asked them, he told them, step down. He stepped down. Arab Spring started. I mean, it started in Tunisia, but then it moved to Egypt. That was the main focus was in Egypt. And then who did the Egyptians elect right away when Mubarak stepped down? Yes, they elected the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim fanatic. It's like they elected Hamas. Mohammed Morsi was like a Hamas. He's a Hamas on steroid, and he led Egypt until the CIA and other intelligence services realized, oh, what have we done? Let's bring another semi-dictator who's going to talk to us, and that's General Sisi of Egypt. But Iraq, still destroyed and torn to pieces. Afghanistan and Iran is controlling Iraq now. Afghanistan, you know what's going on there. Try to be a woman in Afghanistan now. It's like we went, it's like nothing happened. Like that war, American troops died for nothing in the Middle East. Nothing. Aside from avenging 9/11, American troops died for nothing and for countries who are not worth any American blood to spill for. They were trying to teach the Arab Muslim world, which the core of it is in the Arabian Peninsula and the Middle East. They're trying to teach it to be Western. They've always looked, until now, look at where Biden, they're looking at this area from Western goggles. It's not going to work. It's a recipe for a disaster. So as far as that, I'm saying, Netanyahu, no peace. Continue what you're doing in Gaza, but I would even increase the airstrikes. I would not give them any more warnings. Enough warnings were given. If a Hamas terrorist is hiding in your building, the whole building is going to be bombed, period. We have to speak the language in the Middle East. This is how we create deterioration in the Middle East, because the Muslims, Arab, will never, and I'm telling you, as a Middle Eastern scholar, the Arab Muslims in Israel and the Middle East will never ever agree with the existence of a Jewish state in the Middle East, in the land, even in an inch, even in the Quran, they said enough that there is an inch of the land of Israel that is inhabited by Jews. That means you should start war and wage war against Jews and later on the infidels. And if you can do both at the same time, great. That's what happened in 9/11. They just want to kill, because the main goal for every Muslim who is religious, who actually goes and prays and follow the Quran, the goal is one. Muhammad brought the third and final message to humanity. This is the only message. All other religions, Christianity and Judaism, are canceled and gone from the world. Therefore, this world must be Islamic. And they're doing a good job of making it that. I have to give them that. Look at Europe right now. Look at America, and the demographics are going to play a huge part. So back to Gaza. I mean, Israeli soldiers were killed. You know, I don't want to give any achievements to the enemies, but this is the price of war, especially urban war like that. I don't know any military in the world besides maybe the U.S. that can fight such a war against such enemies and try to be so precise and so, it's the most crowded area in the world, the Gaza Strip and the Gaza City. And imagine, even underneath the rubble, these terrorists, and there's like 40 or 50,000 of them, they're all underground. And and I'll tell you one more thing. When they count those civilians, and forgot to continue, but back what I was trying to say about the source of mine from Gaza said, Hamas in this war does not wear uniform. They are operating in civilian clothing. They shoot at the IDF in civilian clothing, which is a war crime by itself because you have to know if you have two sides to a war, you have to be able to identify that that's why we have uniforms, so we don't just kill civilians. They dress up like civilians, and after the IDF spots the source of aggression in the Gaza Strip, and we bomb it and we kill terrorists. Later on, citizens or so-called citizens coming or other terrorists removing the weapons from these Hamas terrorists and then filming it, sending it to the world saying, look, Israel is bombing civilians. They're not armed and they're dressed like civilians. The majority of the casualty in Gaza are not civilians. And if there were civilians, they were hiding weapons, rockets, explosives, and terrorists in their homes. That's a fact. Now, sometimes statistically, you can bomb an area and then there'll be damage to other places, and some people who are, I guess, not involved were hurt. Yes, but that's a war. It's not a picnic. And if people were told to evacuate, they should have evacuated. One more thing I wanted to talk about. I zoom out. I don't look at this as a just Israel-Gaza war. That's really not the way to look at things right now. It's a regional war, and that regional war can easily ignite a world war. I mean, it's all connected. Right now, all eyes are aimed at Lebanon, 3 p.m. today. Another terrorist, the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, is going to have a speech for the first time since that war broke with Hamas. Now, we all know that Hezbollah has been provoking Israel, attacking it almost on a daily basis with anti-tank missiles and mortars and rockets and drones. They're attacking northern Israel, which is mostly evacuated from Israeli citizens, but there are a lot of army there and military that's ready for anything. And we, unlike the past, we as in Israel, we retaliate against these Hezbollah terrorists, we eliminate them. So they already count like 100, 150 dead easily. And I remember that Hassan Nasrallah promised, and he usually keeps his promises. I got to give him that. I'm not glorifying the enemy, but if you want to know what the enemy is planning, you got to give the enemy credit for at least their honesty when it comes to what they promised they're going to do. So the past teaches us that he means what he says. And Hezbollah, when Hezbollah enters the picture, not back and forth mortars to the north or anti-tank missiles, but when they use their full arsenal, not only Lebanon as a country will be destroyed completely, even worse than Gaza, all of Lebanon. And unfortunately, Lebanon has a majority of Christians, but it's going to be nasty. But also Israel will go back 50 years or 40 years in history as far as what we've accomplished here. It's going to be violent because when this front opens, and a lot of people, including myself, I don't really know, but there's a weird quiet right now. There's this, like you can feel sometimes the quiet before the storm. And that there's a weird quiet, like we're expecting something big to happen. And I'm going to go over some stuff here to show you that, let's see here, I'm going to share the screen. There's a couple of things I wanted to show you, and then I will be done here until next time. I was told why I'm not doing updates every day. There's no point. I think I should update when I do update every day, the group with all the news, and it's consuming me 20 hours a day. But in order to do these lives, I need to have something to talk about and elaborate, like a major shifting event. So I'm going to share the screen here. So this is stuff, of course, stuff that I posted in my group. And here it is on the CNN. CNN is usually fake news when it comes to the Middle East. But if there is an article that somehow indicates a danger to Israel, then CNN is with real news, as real as it gets. So CNN, the U.S., has intelligence that Syrian President Assad, the mass murderer in the left here with the suit, has agreed to supply Hezbollah with a Russian-made SA-22 surface-to-air missile systems. And Wagner, remember Wagner? The Wagner force that they were mercenaries, Putin's mercenaries, now they're back to be Putin's mercenaries, was tasked with making the delivery. So it's going to be delivered by Russians to Hezbollah in Lebanon. It is not yet clear whenever. It's already there. They have it. So it's Russia is taking active part in escalating this war, making the world completely forget what's going on in the Ukraine, making the United States busy, making the United States spend money, doing exactly old former Soviet Union tactics. And again, this is the exile of evil. This is Iran, Lebanon with Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, Russia, China. They're all players in this game. Now, another one, and this is what I was talking to you about. Publication, Russian news agency, TASS. See, I shared the link here. You can click on it, but it doesn't show anything on the picture here. You're going to have to click on it. So they said that tomorrow, which is today, here in Israel, it's today, it's morning of November the 3rd at 3 p.m., which is roughly in 7 hours here, 6.5 hours. Hezbollah and Iran will launch an attack from all fronts. When I say Hezbollah and Iran will launch an attack on all fronts, that means they're planning something major that is going to also get the American bases and American forces and American troops in the Middle East involved. They're going to force it in America, and that's the plan. That's what's going to happen. And I hope that the United States will retaliate. Okay, because there's already been 38 or 40 attacks against U.S. bases in the past month alone, with very, very little retaliation, a bombing of like a storage unit somewhere in the middle of the desert. So we have to be careful, and I'm going to keep my eyes open because I think that Hezbollah cannot stand aside. And here's why. The reason is because Hezbollah knows that after the Gaza war or during the Gaza war, Israel will never agree to have Hezbollah's presence on Israeli borders. How do you remove their presence? Only militarily, which will launch the all-out war. So we are in like a trap here. There's no way to stop what already started. As they say, the train has left the station. We're just going to have to be strong. I think the U.S. forces are going to have to be on a very high alert every day, and especially today. And especially not if, but when the front with Hezbollah will open. It's an all-out war between Israel, America, maybe the UK, NATO, with the evil in the world. Mark my word, this is where we're heading to. Let's see a couple more things here. All this other people's so like I said earlier, this man right here who's obsessed with pleasing Iran all the way since the Obama days, he's saying that they're focusing on a two-state solution. What a two-state solution means? That we're going to have more Nazis on our borders. They're going to actually have a country, a state this time, and they're going to be 3 miles away from us, from Israel, and the PLO convention is identical to the Hamas convention, meaning slaughter, kill all Jews in the most Nazis of ways. And Blinken, that's what he wants. Some people never wake up. Netanyahu's speech. Okay, see, this is what I said earlier. Also, the Washington Journal posted news that the Russia's Wagner group may provide air defense weapons to Hezbollah. And that's not me saying that's the U.S. intelligence saying. You don't have to be a U.S. intelligence to understand the Middle East. We are heading into a clash, a big, big, big clash. Now, I'm going to wrap it up here with something that is very, very touching, that we were so blind, we're so brainwashed by the media, so we don't know happens. So let me see here. I'm going to present you again with a short article that I want you to read and tell me what you think. And this is from this year. Slaughter of Nigerian Christians warrants international attention. Oh, it's about time. Thank you. See, here's the thing about this nasty world. It's a racist world. You know, color, some people of color are less important, quote unquote, to some people without color. And the world's attention is usually not on countries that, don't contribute, I guess, much to the world as far as economy and riches and whatnot. And if they happen to be black, who cares? But we're talking about Christians here. You know, we all talk about what happened in Israel. We'll never ever forget what happened in Israel. But I'm going to read you some stats that the news will never ever cover. An estimated of 5,621 Christians worldwide were killed for their faith last year. Of those, 90% were Nigerian. So Israel just lost 1,500 people. We have hostages, we have soldiers killed. But this year alone, 5,621 Christians worldwide were killed for their faith. What's killed for their faith? It's another washed up, politically correct word for murdered and slaughtered by Muslims. I don't know any Jew who killed Christians, and I don't know that Jews have killed 5,621 Christians, and definitely 90% of Jews are not from Nigeria. These are Muslims killing Christians. No matter how you look at it, this is what it is. In its first full day in office, the Biden administration's canceled modest grant to help prosecute Christians in Nigeria. I mean, what is this? What am I reading here? What am I reading here? Christians are being slaughtered for their faith. Innocent Christians in the thousands every day. They just happen to be black and live in Nigeria, so nobody cares. Their blood is cheap. No, it's not. What you see in Nigeria, and by the way, when these people are killed in Nigeria, they're not just killed by, I don't know, the electric chair or hanging. They brutalize them, just like Hamas did. They cut their heads off. They rape their women in front of them. They shoot kids. They murder. They burn people alive. They burn villages alive. That's what happens in Nigeria. But again, nobody cares. So I hope that what happened in Israel will also open the eyes of the world to what's happening to Christians and Jews all around the world. If 5,000 Christian Americans were slaughtered yearly by Muslims in the US, I promise you that half of the Muslim population in Africa will be wiped out by now by American troops. But because these are Nigerians and they're blacks and they can contribute to our elite money, power chasing, disgusting political system that we have in the world, they can't contribute anything. They're Nigerians, so let them die. Who cares? Who even counts? Nobody counting them. It's a problem. The world is under a religious war, but political correctness has blinded us to think that this is a religious war. We can't coexist with culture that its holy scriptures is bound to destroy. There's no coexistence with Nazis, period. I will keep you updated, especially if things develop, and things develop fast here. And like I said earlier, this is the calm before the storm. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. May God bless Israel, and may God bless the United States of America.